Shalom, my brothers and sisters. Shalom, my family. Shalom to the young and the old of Yashar'al, nation of believers. My name is Symmanayah, and if you're tuning in for the first time to any of my presentations, my recordings, you will come to know that Yashar'al, nation of believers, of whom I reference, are all those who seek to do the will of Almighty Yahuah. All those who understand that Almighty Yahuah is the beginning and the end. Who beyond understanding accepts and receive and yield and seek to worship and obey Him. Who has come to understand that it is Yahushua our Mashiach that is our Messiah, and no man can reach the Father except through Him. It is you who I consider my brothers and my sisters. It is you who I consider my family. With that said, today is September 28, 2013, and I want to address the issue of poverty and hunger. Poverty and hunger, tools of control. Who will you serve this day? Greetings, my brothers and sisters. Some of us have received much favor and mercy beyond measure. There are those of us who have taken for granted even the basic or simplest of things we have received in the wake of the Almighty Father's favor and mercies. We proceed day to day with business as usual or with our regular routines. Fresh air, fresh water, food, which are the very basics, yet the most needed things for us to function on this earth. Yes, it is written that man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of the Almighty Father Yahuah. And this is true. I want to bring your attention. I think it is a shame that we have come to take these words for granted. I think it's a shame that we have demonstrated a lack of knowing the importance of fresh air, fresh water, and food, identifying the mercy and favor that we have found from the Most High. When given life, when given breath, a heartbeat, a sound mind, functioning limbs, or a limb. While many of us neglect and or plainly ignore these basic necessities such as fresh water, food, fresh air, very challenging things are occurring worldwide. Consider these factors. The world population is outpacing the needed food production. Nations are beginning to admit their inability to produce enough food to satisfy their population. Thus, we see the sale and battles over fresh water and food, believe it or not. While this may not be happening on our doorsteps, it is happening to brothers and sisters and others throughout other parts of the world. Fresh water supplies are becoming scarce, and man is also polluting our fresh water systems. Water tables are shrinking. Bottom line, we are polluting the entire planet. Greed is growing at an alarming pace. The morality of man is eroding, and wickedness, evil is increasing across the globe. There are some leaders who have come to the conclusion that there must be a move to depopulate the planet, as recommended by specific individuals. Chemicals and poisons have been introduced in the form of pharmaceuticals, additives, preservatives, pesticides, and a host of other elaborate labels that are leading to our demise. We are at risk of some insane person using nuclear weapons to contribute to devastation. The infrastructure of many industrialized nations are crumbling due to greed. Things like roads, highways, transportation systems, rail, bridges, water systems, sewage, utilities are all coming of age, and through greed are being neglected and not repaired. Bridges in some cases have collapsed. Rolling blackouts have been discovered in parts of the U.S. and parts of the world. Global warming is causing sea levels to rise, and irregular weather patterns that affect farming and food are occurring. Man has begun tampering with the weather by seeding the clouds. Some know it as HAARP. These and much more are occurring as this message is presented. It is believed that one of man's natural instincts is self-preservation. Yes, many of us can agree that that is an instinct that we have, self-preservation, to need to do things to preserve our lives. Many of us have been exposed to teachings of only the strong will survive. There are those who look at trends and or examine the waves of change further down the road than others. There are those who are receiving visions and have been charged to sound the alarm and warn people. We have become so busy and distracted that on a mass scale, the aforementioned conditions and warnings are ignored by the majority. What's occurring and what have occurred and resembles the very wealthy who have come to trust their statisticians, scientists, academics, along with other sources, and the very wealthy have begun something very wicked and evil in an effort to control man. It is the enemy, Shaitan, who is behind these evil and wretched events from the leaders of this world, as it regards to trying to depopulate, as it regards to establishing one world government. Believe it or not, an increase in greed will continue to cloud our judgment and cause us to be despondent to righteous instructions and guidance. There are all types of battles occurring as we move about our lives day to day, where the majority of us either do not care or are just totally clueless to the emerging trends. Some of us are just plain rebellious. Let alone the signs of the times and end time events that's unraveling before us. Out of all that is unfolding, there are those who continue with a plan that originates from the enemy in an attempt to control man, women, and children. This is a plan most widely identified by some through secretive organizations, supposedly. But I would say this is a plan of the enemy. It's a plan that we have come to know as the New World Order or the emergence of a one world government. It is a plan that represents the rise of the beast and discussions of the mark of the beast and more. I submit to you, my brothers and sisters, that the so-called middle class in the United States and beyond the United States are experiencing an erosion. In other words, there's a disappearance of the middle class. What that is leaving is either the very rich or the poor. The very rich are becoming richer and the middle class is evaporating, not only in the United States but across the globe. As food supplies and fresh water supplies become scarce, now I realize most of Americans and other industrialized nations may think they are immune to these shortages or either have control over such. But beware, there are plans to take control of these vital resources, food and water, fresh water. There will come a time, and it's already, when prices will be used as the culprit for increased food shortages. In other words, the world leaders will use supply and demand as a natural or manageable condition for price fluctuations. They will hide behind the word economics and say this is something that too will pass. They will ignore informing the world that we have reached the point of no return from a practical perspective. My brothers and sisters, there will be cloaks in many forms used to mask what is truly emerging before our eyes and in our midst. I prayed and sought the Most High Father through His set-apart Spirit in Yahushua's name regarding this matter. I asked the question, Almighty Father, how would one or two individuals cause the world population to worship them? Yes, I, as you know, ask questions and pray and seek and hope or expect answers, knowing that He doesn't have to answer to me. He doesn't have to tell me a thing. But I say, hallelujah, I am compelled to believe he answered and responded to my inquiry, with directing my attention to Genesis 47 chapter and to consider the tools he himself used from time to time to humble man. What is that tool? When he exercised his wrath, his judgment, and famine, and drought, and pestilence, and disease, fruits of our rebellion, are unleashed on us. Let's revisit Genesis 47 chapter. I've spoken of and mentioned it in times past. I want to specifically present verses 13 through 19. This is Genesis 47. And it reads as follows. Now there was no bread in all the land, because the scarcity of food was very severe. In the land of Mitzrayim and all the land of Canaan became exhausted from the scarcity of food. And Joseph gathered all the silver that was found in the land of Mitzrayim and in the land of Canaan for the grain which they bought. And Joseph brought the silver unto Pharaoh's house. And when the silver was all spent in the land of Mitzrayim and the land of Canaan, all the Mitzrayites, and many of you might know them as the Egyptians or Egypt, came to Joseph and said, give us bread, for why should we die in your presence? For the silver is gone. Joseph said, give me your livestock, and I give you bread for your livestock, if the silver is gone. So they brought their livestock to Joseph, and Joseph gave them bread in exchange for the horses and for the flocks they owned, and for the herds they owned, and for the donkeys. Thus he fed them with bread in exchange for all their livestock that year. And when that year had ended, they came to him the next year and said, we do not hide from our master that our silver is all spent, and my master also has the livestock we owned. There has not been left before my master but our bodies and our lands. I want to pause here. If you examine this, my brothers and sisters, you will see that poverty, they became poor. All the silver was gone. All the values and things that they had to trade for bread was gone. And they were hungry. And as a result of their hunger, as a result of poverty and hunger, this is what occurred. 19th verse of the 47th chapter of Genesis read, why should we die before your eyes, both we and our land? Buy us and our land for bread, and let us and our land be servants of Pharaoh. And give us seed, and let us live and not die, and let the land not lie waste. You see, my brothers and sisters, this was a time when man gave themselves willingly over to slavery. What is it that a slave will do for his or her master? What do you think the extremes would be of an abusive master, especially one who has no clue to the living guidance of the Spirit of Yahushua with a desire to worship and obey the Almighty Father? My brothers and sisters, there is a battle. There's a battle between righteousness and evil, period. This battle will begin to come down to a fight over fresh water and food. Poverty and hunger will increase as to make the most vital of resources out of reach. Servitude will enlarge as a result for people trying to acquire fresh water and food. Look around, search the news feeds, and you will discover these conditions in many battles occurring already as this message is being presented. In some parts of the world, these conditions are obvious, but believe it or not, these conditions are emerging in every country on this planet. No one is exempt. It would be wise to begin to seek out our purpose, our chosen and or called positions. Begin to improve our worship and obedience to the Most High Father Yahuah. It would be wise for us to embrace that it is through his set-apart spirit sent in Yahushua's name that we should respond with urgency. Let me present some more scriptures. Ponder on your position as you read these verses. John 21:15, 16, and 17 reads, when therefore they had eaten breakfast, Yahushua said to Shimon Kepha, or some know him as Simon Peter, Shimon, son of Yonah, do you love me more than these? And he said, yea, master, you know that I love you. He said to him, feed my lambs. 16, he goes on to say it. He said again, the second time, Shimon, son of Yonah, do you love me? And he said to him, yea, master, you know that I love you. And he said to him, shepherd my sheep. And 17 goes on, and he said unto him the third time, this is the Mashiach, speaking to Shimon, or Simon Peter, as some of you know him. Son of Yonah, do you love me? And Cephas was sad because he said to him the third time, do you love me? And he said, master, you know all. You know that I love you. Yahushua said to him, feed my sheep. My brothers and sisters, three times was one specifically mentioned in Scripture. Asked the question of, do we love the Mashiach? 3 times. And I say, let us ask ourselves these questions 3 times. And let us realize, if our hearts are sincere, that we have an obligation to feed the sheep, to shepherd the sheep, to feed the lambs. But only, keep in mind, only as we are guided by the Most High, by his set-apart spirit. Matthew 6:25 read, because of this I say to you, do not worry about your life, what you shall eat or drink, or about your body, what you shall put on it. Is not life more than food, and the body more than the clothing? Keep this verse in mind, my brothers and sisters, because it will come to mean much as poverty and hunger increase, as we witness the tools of control that the evil one will use to try to manipulate and will manipulate some. Keep in mind, that was Matthew 6:25. Matthew 6:27, in which of you by worrying is able to add 1 cubit to his lifespan? The question is asked, do we have control to add to our life? No. Let us come to realize these earthen vessels are our structure, our position, our place, and what is expected of us. Matthew 10:39 read, he who has found his life shall lose it, and he that has lost his life for my sake shall find it. Genesis 2:7 reads as follows, and Yahuwah Elohim formed man out of the dust from the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living being. I pray, my brothers and sisters, that you're able to realize that we have a spirit in these earthen vessels. And that spirit has been joined with Yahushua HaMashiach. That spirit has been restored into fellowship with the Father. That spirit is made one by Yahushua, according to the Almighty Father's plans. My brothers and sisters, this is a critical season for Yashar'al. It will be wise to choose whom you will worship and obey this day. As proof emerged regarding the rise in famine and drought, as mentioned in scriptures, we will see poverty and hunger continue to increase. Be mindful, my brothers, these conditions will get worse. We are entering into the final battles before the return of the Mashiach, the Messiah Yahushua. Will food and fresh water cause us to behave differently? Indeed, it will. It is currently for some. Let us choose wisely how we will govern these earthen vessels that we have grown to accept as our bodies. Yes, we will act differently. Some of us will be humbled and draw closer to the High Father Yahuah and come to identify the living instructions and guidance through his set-apart spirit sent in Yahushua's name. But there will be others who will take a different pathway. There will be those who will betray family, friends, neighbors, co-workers, etc. There will be those that will betray others for a morsel of bread and or drink. Whether we can come to grips that chaos, turmoil, civil unrest, the creation of militias, economic collapse, not to mention many other unsettling things, will soon be magnified, whether we come to grips or not. These conditions will reach our doorsteps, my brothers and sisters. What say you, Yashar'al? The ultimate tools of control from a practical and natural vantage point rests with he who controls fresh water and food supplies. The realities for us as believers is that we have come to know that we live by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of Almighty Yahuwah, and should not fear what will happen in these earthen vessels. We have in or are coming to know the importance of setting priorities regarding our structure and representation of righteousness, our worship, in our obedience to the Most High. Search the news feeds. I ask you again and again, be mindful of the signs of the time. Awake, my brothers and sisters, and let's realize it's time for us to clear our ears, remove the veils from over our eyes that impede our ability to see clearly. Let us awake beyond the slumber and begin to improve our worship and obedience. Let us seek to discern and understand what is required of us. Poverty and hunger is on the rise. The tools of control will be manipulation of fresh water and the availability of food. Let these conversations begin to become visible among your loved ones, for the tides of scripture fulfillment have come and are coming. Be encouraged, my brothers. Be encouraged, my sisters, my family. The Most High Father Yahuah will fulfill all that he has promised. Until next time, my brothers and sisters, brace for the coming events. Establish a ready mind and body to respond. Until next time, shalom, shalom, shalom.